Innovate. Accelerate. Move technology forward. The startup revolution is now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the panel discussion for Opening Doors for Filipinos with Open Finance by Smile API. Today, we have a very exciting panel discussion with some of the prime esteemed speakers from the fintech industry. First up, I would like to introduce Mr. Mark Gorriceta, Managing Partner of Gorriceta, Africa Cotton, and Savera Law Firm.
Hi, Edison. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Mark. And second, we have the founder and CEO of Smile API, Mr. Jerome Eger. Good afternoon, Jerome.
Hello, everyone.
Third, we have Ms. Krizelle Lazatin of Brankas. She's here
Hello,
today.
good afternoon.
And the head of Philippine sales for Brankas. Good afternoon.
Hi, Edison. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
And finally, we have Mr. Jabs Bonus, Deputy Country Manager and CFO of FinScore. Good afternoon, Jabs.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Edison.
All right, let's get the discussion started. My first question for our panelists is, can you tell us a little bit about your finance fintech journey and what does your company does in the fintech industry? Let's start with Mr. Mark.
Hi, thanks, Edison. Good afternoon again, everyone. So I'm Mark Gorriceta. I'm the managing partner of our law firm. It's called Gorriceta Africa Cotton and Savera. I also had our corporate group practice in the firm. I also had our technology, media, and telecommunications group practice in the firm. I'm also I'm a board trustee, corporate secretary, and chief legal officer of FinTech Philippines Association. I am also a member of FinTech Alliance. So our firm, while we are a full service firm, we are known for our tech and fintech practice. So which involves as well open finance, and which we will discuss further later. I am part of the Open Finance Oversight Committee, or the OFOC TG of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Jerome, can you tell us more about your company and what your unique value proposition that differentiates from other players in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. So Smile API, we define ourselves as the one trusted source for employment data in Asia. What Smile provides is essentially an end user authorized access to information that includes income data or information about your employer. This information comes from HR, it comes from payroll, from gig economy platforms or more platforms, general data sources, we call them, about employment information. And Smile APIs supports financial institutions using this kind of information to make better credit decisions. So the idea behind it is all over Southeast Asia, and specifically also in the Philippines, you do not have something like a credit score. You also don't have, concise data about, millions and millions of Filipinos, basically covering the biggest part of the population. So you do not really have this. And in the absence of such a score or that information, really the most valuable information, or part of that valuable information, really comes from your employment background. So that will tell a lender basically, how much money do you make and will you be able to repay a loan? So this kind of information is quite significant and impactful. So that's what we do. Obviously, as you can imagine, there's a lot of employment information that also makes sense in other applications. But since we're talking about fintech and open finance today, this is the most significant use case for us. Yeah.
Thank you, Jerome. I'm sure we will have a very interesting discussion this afternoon on that as well. So next we have Jabs Bonus from FinScore.
Hi, FinScore is a fintech startup focused on enabling client banks and financial institutions to further grow their lending business through our alternative consumer data credit scoring platforms. Powered by disciplined data science and machine learning algorithms, with an overall pursuit of contributing to the country's financial inclusion efforts through credit scoring for all Filipinos.
Thank you, Jabs. And next we have Kitch Lazatin from Brankas.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Once again, I'm Kitch. I'm head of sales for Brancos Philippines and leading the institutional business partnerships and acquisition for the Philippine market. At Brancos, we are in the business of really building modern and composable architecture solutions to be able to bridge access for financial services for everyone in the Southeast Asia region. We work with different types of financial institutions to improve accessibility of their services in the market and allowing technology companies to build better financial experiences in their on top of their own products. So we see ourselves as the leading open banking and open finance enabler in the Southeast Asia region.
Thank you, Kitch. Now that we learned a little bit more about the company, um, what who are the customers that you serve, and if there's any numbers that you can share, and in which markets, so that we have a better understanding of your market clientele and the services that is provided. Um, shall we start with Mark again?
Sure. Thanks, Edison. So again, we're a law firm. We're based in the Philippines. So we started in 2015, 2014. We have three offices in the Philippines, here in Ortigas Center in Metro Manila and in BGC. Also, we have offices in the Visayas and specifically in Iloilo and also in Mindanao, in Davao, to cater to our southern clients. We also have offices through our partner firm, Usarn Audio. We have offices in Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand to cater to our Filipino clients who intend to do business there, or for Singaporeans and other Southeast Asian investors who will want to go into the Philippines. So again, we are nearly 50 lawyers in this firm. We are full service, and we lawyer to both big and the most impactful online and tech companies in the Philippines, but we also cater to most of the startups here in the Philippines. So yeah, I hope that helps, Edison.
Thank you, Mark. Jerome.
Yeah, we are a startup, relatively early stage, so therefore not as many markets. We are pretty much focusing on the Philippines almost exclusively, perhaps a little bit of Singapore. I'm based in Singapore. Um, and yeah, the customers that we serve also almost exclusively are in lending in the fintech space. Um, uh, it spreads across different lending products. Typical loan origination for consumer loans, for buy now pay later, but also something that expands a little bit more into modern applications where you issue a card and then disperse different lending products based on that platform. So everything that touches upon risk evaluation, and where the employment situation of the borrower has significance, where you would like to know more about the realm of work, and to conceptualize really where does income come from, how long has a person been employed, where has the person been employed. So this is very significant, and for the lenders that are interested in this kind of data during the loan origination process or for risk management, that's what we provide.
Thank you, Jerome. Jeffs.
Yeah, thanks, Edison. FinScore is a business-to-business fintech startup. Right now, we have more than 30 clients, corporate clients. Among them, banks of all types. We have universal and commercial banks, We have thrift banks, rural banks, and even the digital banks. We also have online lending and financing companies, buy now pay later lenders, and other lending based institutions, all operating within the country, here in the Philippines.
Thank you, Jobs. Pitch.
Yes, so Brankas has actually been around since 2016. It was originally founded in Singapore and headquartered in Indonesia. For Brankas Philippines, we were established here in 2019, and we're actually in the midst of expanding also our market reach, operating in Vietnam, hopefully in Bangladesh, and also in Thailand. But in particular, here in the Philippines, as API banking experts, we work with different financial institutions. Um, to be able to launch and monetize their API banking platform. So this is what we call the API publishing side of our business. But equally, we also work with different types of third-party providers or fintechs as enablers of that industry. So we do API aggregation for them and help them connect digitally to the API providers or suppliers, which are mostly the financial institutions, right? And then equally, we also work with different types of companies like FinScore. We have strategic partnerships with the likes of FinScore and also Smile API to kind of help build the ecosystem. Also with the likes of Attorney Mark's companies to work with the regulatory bodies to really build on the open finance or open finance ecosystem here in the Philippines.
Thank you, Kitch. Obviously, there you guys are the experts in your fields, industry leaders in tech law, open finance, and API integration, and social scoring. So it's exciting to see a lot of collaboration taking place also among industry players. But more importantly, on the topic of since our topic today is opening doors for Filipinos with open finance, my question for the panel is, what is your understanding of open finance, and how is your company what is your company doing in relation to open finance? So this is a open question, so anyone can answer. So, thank you.
Sure. I guess like if you don't mind, I could get it started. Then will pass it to the experts, right? The Brankas, FinScore, and Smile. But for me, as being part as well of the OFOC TG, I'll start it off. I guess Edison. For me, open finance. There's like I'm sure there's different descriptions, definitions later. But for me, open finance is simply the interconnectedness of the fintech ecosystem, right? One can imagine it as a sort of building virtual express lanes or highways between any and all financial institutions, their technology providers or third-party providers, or what we call the TPPs, right? And of course, the merchants and financial consumers. Why is it necessary? Well, simply because a digital economy must have a fast, seamless, and reliable tech infrastructure that allows money and data to move at the click of a button, or for customers, even for, I guess, first time account holders to easily open accounts and transact from one financial institution to another. In your second question, in terms of what my company or probably my firm rather is doing for open finance, well, of course, as a law firm, I'd like to think with deep experience in the tech or tech media and telco space and banking and fintech space, we assist regulators, specifically, I guess, the central bank, and participate in the creation of meaningful regulations that can further develop open finance. I guess with our roster of clients, most of which are here, also engage in financial services and technologies. We bring together all key stakeholders and try to form synergies, as you mentioned, no, Edison, between the private and governmental concerns and interests for the benefit and protection of the Philippine financial consumers.
Thank you, Mark. Uh, Anyone else would want to give it a go?
Yeah, I would love to
Yeah,
have
go ahead.
Oh, ladies first, please.
Thank you, Jerome. Yeah, if I could also just build up on what Attorney Mark mentioned earlier, I think on Branca's side, open finance is that we've especially here in the industry, we've heard it as quite a buzzword these days. But really, when you break it down, there are a lot of definitions that come into play. In our side, on Branca's side, it's really as simple as, hinging on the principle of customers owning their transaction data or their data, and thereby should have the full discretion, to share these with authorized parties should they wish to do so. So for as little or as many. And that's, I think, what we now call kind of democratizing the access to financial services. Because today, I mean, there's, with the thrust towards digital transformation, there's really a wealth of data available. But when you kind of look deeper, a lot of that is still being controlled or being overseen by the financial institutions. So open finance really is enabling or unlocking those barriers to the portability or the transferability of the information, so that the customer would be able to have access to multiple financial services, should they choose to do so. And I think open finance, open banking, most oftenly used interchangeably. Open banking, we're seeing a lot of that today, especially, at the start of the pandemic, and I guess post pandemic, where you see the interoperability of payments within the banking ecosystem. Open finance, I guess I would say, would be the wider umbrella of things, right? Extending the principles of open banking across a broader set of financial products and services, not just payments. That would probably include lending, investments, as Jerome and Japs had mentioned earlier in their business, where there's a lot also happening on the lending space. And it's being able to transition a lot of these open banking principles, or the interoperability and data portability of that, of customers information, to the non-financial sector, right? Health, agriculture, or agri-tech, property tech, um, are all of those industries that are slowly beginning to have some layer of embedded finance in their platforms or in their businesses.
Thank you, Kitch. Jerome?
Yeah, Kitch made some really good points there. What I believe is, open finance in a wider sense, and that includes open banking from my point of view, is so significant because the portability, although sounds a little bit abstract, what it actually is, it puts the end user in control. It puts the so-called data subject actually where the law sees them, and this is the owner of their own data. I found it in some situation preposterous how impossible that is still this day, right? So you are the owner of your data. I think the DPA and its IRR are very clear about this. You can see this in regulations around the globe. The GDPR is probably the guiding, legal that are showing the way there in this regard. Um, Once this data is your own, there is really nothing that holds you back from using it for yourself as an individual. So the way that I see us, and that includes FinScore and Brankas, as well as Smile API, is enable us. Yeah? So and there's a wonderful analogy, which I'm sure many of you have probably already heard, specifically in this round, but for the audience, when oil is the proverbial, or data is the proverbial oil of the 21st century, then we are providing shovels, right, or for gold. Or we are the refineries, basically. We produce the pipes to bring this oil, to process it, and to bring it to the location where it is needed, which is your car, your engine, right? That brings you forward. And I think this is a wonderful analogy. In our time, we need companies that build these pipes and plugs and connectors to actually enable fintech. I mean, what is fintech, right? And all these buzzwords. What is enabled? What is embedded finance? All of these things are impossible without APIs. They're impossible without open finance. And so what we are doing here in all of our specific realms, whether it's employment, whether it's telco data, whether it's banking data as a whole, all of that is necessary. and all of that needs to be done in order to become the lubricant for the economy, because credit, access to financial services, and in a wider sense also insurances and later on perhaps investments, are essential for an economy to move forward and to grow, and to bring wealth to every Filipino. So it's very essential what we're doing here, although most consumers might not be aware of what we do. It's kind of interesting because we're all B2B. We operate in the background, but I'm very thankful and grateful as well for Attorney Gorriceta's work together to build this connection, not between us and fintech, but much rather between us and the regulators, to help to facilitate, to be an advocate, and to bring these bring the conversation to life. Yeah.
Thank you, Jerome. What a wonderful analogy for information is the new gold, new oil. Yeah. So it's very important that we have a clear understanding of what it is about. And of course, I would also love to hear from Jabs on his definition and how its company, how FinScore is working on that.
Thank you, Edison. For me and for FinScore, open finance means democratizing the financial data of the consumers, giving them greater agency, control, and access over their own financial data in a secure and reliable manner. With open finance, consumers will have a broader and cheaper options for their financial needs. It will also encourage development and innovation from financial services providers through better competition, not just from incumbents such as banks, but also from fintech startups and other companies. FinScore's value proposition provides for a great use case of what open finance can do for many Filipinos. Our company derives objective, unbiased consumer credit scores from mobile subscribers' telco data, thereby allowing more Filipinos to qualify for loans that they would have otherwise not obtained had they only been evaluated through their traditional credit information. Open Finance aims for consumers to benefit further from their own financial data, which is currently fragmented and closed off by existing financial services providers. So, as mentioned by Jerome, we are a B2B company. However, we view ourselves as having impact far beyond what our clients are able to do so. And open finance aims to benefit the end consumers, the one who really is the engine of the economy of the country, opening up broader types of financial products and cheaper products that in turn will help them further in terms of growing the economy and living uh, better lives. So that's it, Edison.
Thank you, Jobs. I mean, open finance is such a buzzword these days, right? And you can slice it in so many ways. And really, you guys shed light to how you would define it, as well as how it is related to your company. On the other side of open finance, which is the government and industry, government regulations and industry changes. What are some of the relevant regulatory changes, as well as adaptation of open finance in Philippines or in other countries like Singapore? So perhaps the panel can shed some light as far as the some of the relevant government regulations and adaptation of open finance in your respective countries. Okay, so since it's a regulatory question, perhaps we can start with Attorney Mark.
Okay, sure. I guess your question is with respect to, let's say, trends and like what the government is doing about it. So before we even go to, let's say, industry trends relating to open finance, I guess it's important to emphasize to everyone that the Philippines and the relevant government agencies and private players for this space are just at the in the Philippines, are just at the initiation phase of open finance. For context, as most of you know already, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or the Philippine Central Bank, has only issued BSP Circular number 1122, or the Open Finance Framework, just last year, if I'm not mistaken. And thereafter, the Open Finance Oversight Committee, or the OFOC, which I'm part of, as mentioned, was formed to develop policies and technical standards relating to open finance. Of course, while technologically the concept of open finance has propagated in the much mature financial markets, regulations and actual synergies in the Philippine market are just starting to take off. Given the varying levels of API readiness and IT infrastructure capabilities and manpower, I'd say that as of now, some of the trends would include, of course, RPAs, or screen scraping, which allows the collection and transfer of data across financial institutions and platforms without, obviously, the ready API capabilities. I guess our friends here over at Brankas, FinScore, and Smile Tech, or API, will be in a better position to explain, trends overseas and what they've been doing in our jurisdictions pertaining to open finance. Edison?
Thank you, Mark. For the purpose of the audience, what is the RA again? It's important, so we have to say it twice.
It's BSP Circular 1122.
1122. So for those who are keen to explore that, Mr. Attorney Mark would be your guide. All right. Jerome, perhaps for Singapore, I'm sure you might want to share some of that as well.
I think as said, Smile is really very much focusing on the Philippines, so I wouldn't be able to say anything particular about our own operations in other countries. However, if we take a look at Europe and if we take a look at the US, I think that is pretty much the most mature markets when it comes to utilizing APIs in open finance. And when we look at the big players that are there, I think everybody knows what Plaid does. And I think Brankas is probably the closest equivalent to that what we could see in Southeast Asia. It is a company that enables connections between banks and fintechs, right? So you can utilize your bank information. Part of it is RPA, part of it is via APIs. Again, another part is OCR supported. And I'm sorry for using all these acronyms, and it sounds very technical, but it actually is. I think at the end of the day, and hopefully I speak with one voice for all three companies that are represented in the open API space on this call, we are pretty much technology agnostic, right? So we do not depend on one specific technology. We operate pretty much in an agile environment, which also means whatever is the most suitable technology to get the job done on behalf of our clients and the end users is the technology that we're going to employ. And if that means it is RPA, obviously always in a very compliant way. And I think the most important factor there is with the consent of the data subject, then this is the technology that we will employ. And if there is an infrastructure that we can see that has been, deployed from the top, such as in the EU, where they say now after, according to PSD2, you have to build APIs and the banks are really pushed to do so, then obviously that would be a way where players like us could adapt to much easier, and there would be no need for RPA. Obviously, there's a much higher quality if every applicable player and data source would deploy their own API infrastructure, right? This would be a dream environment, but it's not just not the case, right? And so, in the absence of such a futuristic infrastructure where every company has the potential to communicate all of its data points with every other company, we just have to build our own infrastructure. And this is pretty much what innovative and companies with an agile mindset do. And so I hope this did not dilute your question too much, Edison. But I think that's one of the important factors, especially when we look at what's happening in the US and in the EU, and how much value this has actually brought to the fintech sector and to innovation in general.
Definitely, Jerome. For we for the audience purpose also, if you're not sure what RPA means, it's robotic process automation. Yeah, that's maybe a pitch. Given your involvement with Brankas, maybe you can also extend on that a little bit, as well as in relation to our question.
Sure. Yes. Thanks for that. I think I'd love to be able to build up on what Attorney Mark and Jerome mentioned. Correct. In the Philippines, we're at the initiation stage, but I think we're getting a lot of traction. We're actually seeing quite a lot of use cases that are already, with hints of open finance, like when you do your Gcash, for example, the account linking or being able to open an account on that platform or other platforms. Those are sample or use cases of open finance. And I think the regulatory bodies here in the Philippines are recognizing that, and they're quite busy trying to work together with the Open Finance Oversight Committee, right, or OFOC, as Attorney Mark mentioned, to put that together or to put some structure into place. But also from an adoption perspective of other markets, as Jerome mentioned, in Europe, it's actually the Payment Services Directive, or PSD2, that launched the whole concept of open banking. And that's really just, the European region being able to provide that directive to force the financial institutions to offer dedicated APIs, right? To really be pro-consumer, or to allow the secure sharing of the customer's data across their different preferences or wherever they would choose to share that. And then in the UK, for example, the major banks have already adopted an open finance standard. In Indonesia, in I think late last year, October 2021, the equivalent of their central bank, so Bank Indonesia, launched also what they call the National Open API Payment Standard, or SNAP, and that's really also providing kind of an infrastructure or framework that hopefully the Philippines will also get to soon. Because I think in the industry we always say that the Philippines was Indonesia a few years back, so we are on our way to kind of building that ecosystem as well. In some cases, we're actually also moving quite fast or a little bit more advanced as well. So I think it's a very exciting journey up ahead for open finance. In Singapore, I'm not too sure about the regulation, but we do have an interesting use case where they have the SingPass, or the national ID kind of platform that's launched by the government. But in that mobile banking, or in that app actually with the SingPass, you could centralize all of your banks there and secure financial statements and services. So, whether or not there are already financial frameworks or regulatory frameworks set into play, I think the industry is clearly seeing that there are quite a wealth of use cases already, popping up from the fintech space, from the traditional or the incumbents. They're slowly getting there as well. And so it's a very dynamic and exciting journey up ahead for open finance here. And we have a lot of markets to kind of benchmark against.
Indeed, Kitch, and for those who are looking to expand to other areas, these are very relevant information that the audience can look up on. For Jabs, the same question goes, but maybe a little tweak on the given your expertise in the credit scoring, are there also relevant regulatory changes in or adaptations that are in relation to your business model?
Thank you, Edison. For at least for FinScore, what we have observed is that the central bank has been quite proactive and open-minded in terms of entertaining and looking at possible solutions and approaches to not just open finance but even in other initiatives that they currently have, such as the national retail payment system, the financial inclusion initiatives. All these come into play and they're interconnected. And I guess one thing that is, I think, the challenge being seen, especially for those in the banking industry, is the speed with which of adjustment and adoption. As described by Jerome earlier, the ideal state is that information is digitized, and then the access is just a simple setup of an API, then we securely connect, and then we share data. However, in reality, prior to me being in FinScore, I was with one insurance company and four local and foreign banks in the Philippines. And I've seen multiple setups, multiple structures, predominantly still on the legacy side, and a lot of it are still manual. So while the banks are eager to contribute, of course, they have a lot of limitations working against them. And I guess that's where Brankas, Smile API, and even FinScore would be able to help in terms of their open finance initiatives, help them accelerate, have exposure to, and start the learning about fintech, about open finance and open banking. And that's where we also see regulators encouraging these same banks to keep an open mind in terms of what we currently have. Because in other countries, as shared by Kitch earlier, in Europe and in Singapore, Australia, the adoption has started. Some have already in the middle stages or in succeeding phases, but they had the same challenges. Not everyone has set systems and set up already ready to take in API queries and calls, and that's where RPAs and all other alternative approaches to enabling the requirements and potential benefits of open finance come into play until such time that we reach that level of maturity where we can then comfortably say that, okay, our banking system can now accommodate more and more requirements of open finance. So that's where we are at the moment. And we are FinScore stands ready with Brankas and Smile API along with Gorriceta Law in helping our clients help those end consumers access better financial products, all with the goal of financial inclusion and open finance.
Thank you, Jabs. And speaking of helping the everyday Filipinos, I would like to bring the question to a more personal level. How can open finance, what opportunities does it enable for every Filipino? I mean, we've talked about regulation, we've talked about uh, the governing bodies, we talked about trends, industry trends, but on a personal level, how can an average Filipino benefit from open finance? What are the use cases, and what are some of the very personal applications for them and benefits?
Okay. All right. So Edison, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So your question is, what opportunities does it enable? Does it provide, no, for Filipinos? Okay. So again, for me, especially for our listeners and viewers, to better understand the importance and opportunities created by open finance, we can probably compare it to our road infrastructure, especially in the Philippines, right? For me, you cannot create a robust and inclusive economy if you don't have enough roads that let people have easy access to go to their jobs, to transact in business establishments, in financial institutions, or to avail of government services. No, so in the same way, you cannot build a robust and inclusive digital economy if there are little or probably no digital roads or API connectivity between the market, the consumer, and the financial players. So again, having a working and reliable open finance ecosystem simply lets these institutions connect instantaneously, and simultaneously to each other. And for Filipinos, this means an easier time. In simple terms, what is this for? This means an easier time in opening a bank account, opening your e-wallet accounts, performing customer permission data transfers, having better credit risk scoring, as mentioned by Jobs, scoring mechanisms, and just in general, being able to easily access and avail of financial products and services like loans or insurance, which fuels market competition and, I guess, better rates and fees for those services generally and basically. Simple as that.
Thank you, Mark.
I
I
think
see Jerome. Yeah, go ahead.
maybe if I can build on that, obviously what Mark mentioned, all of that is correct, and these are the scenarios that play in front of us and that are in plain sight. They're very obvious. These are the benefits that we can reap immediately using using the infrastructure and using the data. The even more exciting thing is the possibility that we don't see yet. So I want to give an analogy because it is not that obvious, because I cannot come up with a fantastic business idea. Just imagine, cloud services would not have been able without the cloud, without AWS coming up with the idea of renting out servers to other third parties. And then there will be, other creative and entrepreneurial thinkers that will come after us and build on our infrastructure. Imagine nobody would have thought that there is a service like Uber or Grab or something like this when somebody invented the smartphone. And combining cloud and smartphone brings up a plethora of new services. I see us as a similar part of that infrastructure that is going to enable a whole new wave of innovation that we can't even start to think about. So it sounds a little bit abstract, but trust me, if the past is an indicator, this infrastructure is going to be a wave for wealth, better livelihood for the whole economy. It is, as you said, Mark, an infrastructure. It's like a road, it's like a cloud, it's like a mobile network. This is the infrastructure that we're building. Information needs to flow the way that people need to be transported or data needs to be stored. This is just one part of it. And I'm excited about the innovation that we haven't seen yet. So it's also important to have this panel and to have people listen to what we are doing here. Bank data, employment data, telco data becomes available for you as a founder in the Philippines. Now start thinking of what you can do in the next 5 years. Go to the fantastic new venture capital infrastructure and start to build on what we provide to you. This is a message to the founders. And the next unicorns will be built on this infrastructure in Southeast Asia, and we don't know about it yet. This is the thing that excites me the most.
And I'm sure it also excites everyone who's going to see a lot of improvements and progression through open finance. Hitch, Jobs, would like to
Yeah,
go next?
perhaps I'd also like to add a bit of a different perspective, right? Correct with Attorney Mark, and what Jerome said. It's really building the roadworks or the roads towards inclusivity. And I think together with that is the opportunity really for towards financial literacy or education, because the more that there's that ecosystem that's available, and more people see the availability of these financial services on platforms that they would that they use day to day, whether that's a wallet app or perhaps an even e-commerce platform that they use for their regular shopping. I think it really opens the doors towards educating a lot of our fellow Filipinos across different sectors, right? perhaps, as we build on the agricultural side of things or the tech side of things, that means a farmer could access loans on a platform, or with the use of technology like with Smile or with FinScore. um, the not the typical freelancer or those that are kind of not on the formal economy would have the courage to start exploring what they could access to, right? Because they're a bit more exposed to the different use cases. They see it, they get to actually try it out on these platforms. And I think that leads to a lot of the bridging the gap when it comes to financial literacy here. And of course, as a byproduct, also would be towards financial inclusion. But I think the financial literacy element is quite important. Even as the frameworks are still being set into play, or we're just seeing, use cases here and there, that mindset of being able to see, oh, I can open an account in this application. I no longer have to go to a branch. Or perhaps while I'm shopping, I can also avail of a credit card. Those types of use cases are really the best way to start telling the end consumers, right, that this is what could be the potential. As Jerome was saying, there's a vast opportunity to experience financial services in a different way, perhaps in ways that we never thought possible, and also perhaps in ways you've never imagined just yet. So it's very exciting. And while a lot of our, Smile, FinScore, and Brankas are in the business of offering, business to business or B2B solutions, when we capture the different types of partners or clients that we work with, it really would tap across all types of profiles in the consumer side or consumer sector. So quite interesting for me on the financial literacy aspect.
Definitely. And in terms of credit scoring, Jabs, how is that going to benefit our everyday Filipinos?
For credit scoring, one way I would see is that because for risk management or credit profiling and evaluation, as you want to have as much insight as to the ability of a potential borrower to qualify and pay back for the loan. And open finance would allow to open up avenues and information that previously are not available to Filipinos in terms of making an application. The way we can describe this is in an example. For example, I'm applying for a loan. I'll be asked to fill up forms, including sources of income, etc. And then I wait for a few days. I'm anxious. I'm not sure whether I'm approved or not. I apply again for another loan for another in another bank, and I do the process all over again, and then in another bank, and then with an online lending company. So it's in open finance. The way I imagine it is that um, the data that the banks will need, I may no longer have to supply it to them because it can easily be accessed elsewhere. For example, if I already have an existing loan with another bank, or I have I have income information somewhere that has already been permissioned and available for sharing and access based on who or which entity I would want that data to be used. So those types of situations makes it a lot more convenient, a lot more opens up a lot more financing options for the Filipinos, because now I don't have to repeatedly defend that my income is this because my ITR is this, or I don't have my ITR yet because it's still being filed, etc. But right now with open finance, the objective is those information becomes freely and securely available, making things a lot more faster. And in credit scoring, the more insights that we get from financial and even non-financial data, the better it is in terms of drawing a picture and making more Filipinos qualify for the financing that they deserve and need.
Thank you, Jabs. What an exciting time to be in, because because of open finance, it did indeed, bridge the community, industry, as well as proper governance, bringing insights to industry players, and giving more access of financial services for everyone. So, with that, I would like to have perhaps a closing statement from each of the panelists to end our panel discussion. Give us your final insights, as well as any exciting upcoming initiatives. So let's start with Tony Mark, perhaps. Thank you.
Sure. Just to close, I guess, as the saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. No?
Yeah.
So, for me, the development and adoption of open finance will definitely be a significant milestone in forwarding the Philippine digital economy. With open finance, we are reducing, if not completely removing, barriers to financial inclusion for the unbanked and underbanked Filipinos. This creates immense opportunities for both traditional financial institutions and startups to reach more consumers and offer really more financial products and services. So, increased access to financial accounts, of course, also means more payment options that can be used to purchase, remit, and transact with businesses in the country, which helps boost our economy. So, a lot to look forward to, if ever, not if ever, with this open finance framework, with what the OFOC TG is doing, with what our friends from Brankas, Smile, and FinScore are doing, that both the private and the public sector should look forward to, especially towards our goal, towards, again, financial inclusion. Thank you. Thank you, Edison, and everyone.
Thank you, Tony Mark. Jerome, let's have your closing statements.
Thanks. I think specifically about Smile API. I think what we have in common all is that we save a lot of time, and I cannot begin to stress how important this actually is for our lives. To quote Keynes, and I take this a little bit out of context, but in the long run, we're all dead. And the importance of saving our most valuable resource, which is time, is such a precious asset that we all bring to the table. It's for the end users, it's for ourselves, but as an aggregate for the economy. The value that we bring is we bring everyone more of their lifetime back. I think it's fantastic what Jebs just said. It's more convenient, yes, it is, but I think the most significant part of that is actually it's not just a convenience, it's actually real lifetime that you get back for doing things in seconds that have taken minutes, hours, in some cases days or weeks. You can get this done with technology to enable finance, to enable other applications, as I said, that we haven't thought about yet. And this is just such a value that we should remember that every day. And it's the same feeling that you spend on a busy road when you go through rush hour. And I think I speak to everybody's realization of how many hours you spend in traffic jams in Metro Manila when you go through rush hour. This is all wasted lifetime. I mean, people probably try to use this time in a more productive way to have calls or listen to podcasts. But at the end of the day, if you could think of a way that offers an infrastructure in a much more efficient way, the best analogy is get rid of your rush hour waiting time. This 1 to 2 to sometimes 3 hours a day can actually be given back to you. And open finance is one of these ways how you can get your time back. The most valuable resources, and by the way, the only resource that we do not have in abundance, is very limited and becomes more valuable the less we have.
Thank you, Jerome. Hitch, Japs?
Yes, I think to the points of Jerome and Attorney Mark also earlier, open finance is for everyone, benefits everyone in the ecosystem. And it's really not meant to be complicated, right? As we mentioned, at the heart of it is really, or at the center of it is the customer, and bringing them back the power, or empowering them rather, to kind of make these decisions or to choose and share their information. And when you put that, principle at the heart of how you're doing your open finance, and if everyone in the sector or the industry would embrace that, it really is a mutually beneficial ecosystem. There are different thoughts and opinions about, opening and sharing information. There are, of course, a lot of fears as well, because it's a fairly new concept. But, with the regulatory bodies working closely with different experts and technology providers also being, coming into the picture, presenting different secure measures or control measures to guard how this information is being shared, and there's a process also that's being put into place, it would really create that robust ecosystem where everyone would stand to gain something, right? Of course, it creates a little friendly competition against the incumbents, or, for the incumbents, not against, but for the incumbents, for those that are also trying to enter the market. But if we embrace it, I think ultimately, from the traditional providers in the financial sector, for the new players or the fintech players, and even outside of the financial services sector, down to the consumers, everyone stands to gain something and would really benefit in this ecosystem. So it's, for me, and I guess for I speak on behalf of everyone as well, open finance is here to stay. Resistance is a futile, I would say, and there's really nothing to fear about it. There are ways that we could come and approach it. Conversations are actively happening. It's not it's not new players trying to impose that this should be the way, but it's really all of those conversations and, I guess, creative discussions to see how we could further empower the different end consumers, right? So yeah, I think very, very exciting times for open finance here in the Philippines, and we'd love to have all of these conversations come into play through different ways, pilots, conversations, seminars, or webinars such as this one, just to help create more knowledge or understanding about how open finance is here to stay and help everyone else.
Exciting times indeed. Jabs, for your
Thank you,
final.
Edison. Uh, for open finance to be successfully adopted and practiced in the Philippines requires the cooperation and contribution of both traditional financial market players, such as the banks, and the startups who possess the technical knowledge and nimble methodologies, whether in fintech or not. Supply of consumer data is abundant. And it's only a matter of time before the end consumers themselves realize that they have all this information about them and they're not benefiting as much from it. And I think, as mentioned by Kitch, open finance is eventually going to arrive. And we're going to have to live in that situation and prepare for it. And now is the perfect time to embrace and keep an open mind in terms of the various technologies, approaches, and methodologies that everyone can take advantage of, especially in terms of adopting open finance as for your company and also for your end consumers. With enough demand, a market will be formed that will allow for efficient exchange of value and discovery of fair market prices. The aim of open finance is to build a democratized market of consumer data that benefits the consumer and the economy. FinScore is excited to continue serving by providing excellent, high quality credit scoring insights and analytics solutions with the vision of credit scoring of all Filipinos.
What an exciting times indeed, and with industry stalwarts such as Gorriceta, Smile API, FinScore, and Brankas, we will be in the country is in very good hands to progress forward. And we really appreciate your insights this afternoon, and we hope that the audience likewise has learn a lot about open finance, and I'm sure they will be interested to know more. And if they will be staying in touch, they can reach out to you and your organization for further collaborations and partnerships to bring the country forward through open finance. Thank you very much for this afternoon, Jerome, Kitch, Gabs, and Mark. Maraming salamat and good day. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.